So another thing.
Good morning.
Oh, we're live.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry for the delay. We had a little construction noise coming from the background. Welcome to Coffee Talk with Ken at Get Me Some Green. We're so honored to have you. I hope you're having a fantastic Saturday. Welcome. As always, you know Ken Newbill.
It's good to see you guys.
I'm Heather Wiskus.
Seems like it's been forever.
It's been a few weeks. So I'm really excited today because we're actually coming to you live from one of our green room wellness facilities. So this is one of our green rooms and it is my happy place for sure.
But I'm sharing this to my group right now.
You should. So this is the best part about going live. We can be very candid with you guys and it makes it a lot more fun. So today we're talking about the thyroid.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to step in real quick and walk around and just make sure that we're set. So close, Heather, close up, because I don't have a camera person today.
Oh, I think we're looking good.
Yep, we're looking good. Awesome. Sorry, guys, just technical difficulty. All right, awesome.
We're awesome. You're awesome.
All right, so today we're talking about thyroid, and if it's okay, I want to share a little story I have about myself.
Absolutely.
So
stories work. Several
years ago, before I moved here, so this was about 10 years ago, I felt this thickness in my throat, and I didn't have a bulge or anything that stuck out, but I just felt thick. It was like hard to swallow. I was losing hair. I had itchy spots. No doctor could figure out. And I said to my doctor, I said, just for giggles, can we do an ultrasound or something? She goes, well, your levels are right. How many of you have heard that your blood levels are right? Your blood levels are right. So I didn't think anything was wrong, but I felt innately that we're missing something.
Right.
So I said, let's just do an ultrasound. She goes, well, you don't need it. I said,
were you tired too?
I was tired. I was crabby, but I was depressed.
Yeah,
because
depression's a
my
big sign.
moods were like, I was giving my husband whiplash, that poor man. So I kind of pushed the issue, and I encourage you guys to do the same because you got to be your own health advocate in this situation.
Well, did you tell your doctor you were depressed?
I did. I told her everything. She gave me a Lazapram, so she put me on an antidepressant.
Right away.
Right away.
Bam. And here's the sad thing, like any good doctor, as soon as you hear depression, you should instantly check the thyroid. Yeah. It is a major piece. Like, if you're not doing that, that's like, you're not depressed and you're not checking thyroid, you're not checking B12 levels. Not cool. That's not cool, because those are like some of the big ones, right?
But we can't understand that doctors only practice what they know. Mm-hmm. So we have to honor them in the space they're at. I don't think she understood the levels that I was going through. The Lazapram ended up causing me to have heart palpitations. My heart was racing, and I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my chest. So, scale back a little bit. She tells me I don't need an ultrasound, and I look at her. I said, does it cost you any extra money to order an ultrasound for me? And she said, well, no, it doesn't. I said, then why are you denying me this opportunity to really look and see if there's something else here? Mm-hmm. So I got her to approve it, and turns out I had nodules on both sides of my thyroid.
Well,
so, but they didn't show up on a blood test yet, and they weren't visible just by looking at my neck yet. I'm telling you this because I was able to change the course of my health by digging deeper and asking questions.
Is it this medication right here?
A Lazapram. It's AL. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, at that point, I went and had a test done, and they did this horrible needling in my neck, and it felt like I was being choked and dying because they wanted to make sure it wasn't cancerous. It was not. And none of them did anything. They wanted to give me like thyroid medication and just watch it. I'd have to have this needling test done every 6 months. And when I say needle, it was like a needle like this long, and they would jab it into the nodules in my thyroid, which I had bruises. It looked like I was choked for like 3 to 4 weeks afterwards because it's just a very invasive test. So after going through this and then having the heart, I actually had to wear a heart monitor because we thought I was having a heart attack because the way my heart was racing. It was all anxiety. My heart wasn't actually beating any faster at all. This was the anxiety level. And it's all kind of connected with, now I've got this fear. I've got this fear of cancer and nodules and all this.
Let's drop some side effects of that medication on some people real quick. Right, so here's the side effects.
Of a Lazapram.
Severe drowsiness, thoughts of suicide or hurting yourself, unusable changes in mood or behavior, confusion, aggression, hallucinations, worsened sleep problems, sudden restless feeling or excitement, muscle weakness, drooping eyelids, trouble swallowing, vision changes, upper stomach pain, dark urine, yellowing of the skin, eyes. What's that? That's jaundice, right?
And this is the medication they gave me for anxiety.
Most common side effects, slurred speech, like a dope head, slurred speech.
Oh, it's real.
Lack of balance or coordination, weakness, dizziness, drowsiness. You know, these all means that this medication is probably really jacking up your adrenal glands.
Oh, yeah.
Kicking them all over the place. They don't know what to do. Your hormones are going nuts.
So
that's not cool.
This is why I wanted to share this story, because doctors told me nothing was wrong with my thyroid. My body was saying definitely something otherwise.
Something ain't right.
And I questioned it, and it brought me to the health place I am today, and I started learning about nutrition. And one of the valuable things I learned is about iodine, and those are just some of the things we're going to talk about today. But I wanted to share that with you because I don't want you to think that Ken and I sit in front of you as people that know a lot but have never experienced it. I've walked this path personally. I've felt this pain personally, and I want to share it with you because I would love if you didn't.
And a lot of you are experiencing this, and a lot of you are undiagnosed. It's a very common undiagnosed issue with thyroid issues because the doctors and your general practitioners are typically only looking at 1 to 2 factors in your blood, right? And a blood test can be great for helping understand thyroid conditions, but unless you get the right blood test with the right elements of a panel, it will be detrimental because the doctor will feel confident that you're okay. And
but isn't it a bell curve too?
Always. But there's also certain about just looking at one thing and thinking that means you're good. When your symptoms are this long. And you're walking into your doctor, and ladies, especially out there, I know this is happening to you because this happens to 80% of my clients. You're walking into your doctor's office, you're saying, in that 10 minutes that you have, if you're lucky to speak with them, I'm feeling all this. And they're like, okay, but your TSH level's fine. So it can't be your thyroid. That's about 1 thing out of 9 that we need to evaluate to understand not just how your thyroid's working, but how that whole endocrine system is working in harmony or not in harmony. Finding out, is the thyroid hormone actually making it into your cell? Is it being converted appropriately? Okay? It's not just, hey, am I making enough?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I want you to challenge your doctor on this to go, it's not just about me making enough hormone. It's about the fact, can my body manifest it in the proper form, number 1. And then number 2, is it getting delivered to my cell?
And it's okay. I know there's a
I'm hyped this morning.
Generation out there.
This topic right here gets me fired up.
There's an entire generation of people that are afraid to question what their doctors say. And we're here to tell you it's okay.
They work for you.
It's called a practice for a reason. They don't know everything. That's why there's heart specialists, cancer specialists, lung specialists, because they took the general medicine and then they leaned into something else. But I hate to tell you this, you're a whole body. And you can't go to a doctor with just one piece. You really need to understand how the whole body works and have an appreciation, and no one doctor does that. So give your doctors grace, guys.
Yeah, sure.
But don't be afraid to say, hey, I think we need to dig deeper. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I'm fighting that right now with 2 people I love very, very much back in Chicago. I'm begging them to expand their health care beyond the one doctor and dig deeper to get better benefits. So I'm urging you to do the same thing. Don't be afraid.
So let's talk about the thyroid today. Let's get into some things.
So for those of you that don't know,
where's that?
Your thyroid is right here. And
it's
shaped like a butterfly at the front of your throat. So there was actually a newscaster recently, and forgive me if any of you know her name, please put it in the comments, that someone was watching her on the news and she moved her hair.
And her hair swollen up.
They could see it, and they actually emailed her and said, hey, I don't mean to be inappropriate, but I've been through this, I've walked this path, and that looks familiar to me. You should get your thyroid looked at. Turns out she had thyroid cancer.
She was already there.
And that singular, someone noticing that saved her life.
Yes.
So someone that has thyroid issues, you'll notice this is it almost looks like they've swallowed a softball. Do you ever see a frog and how their throat, that's what it would look like. It would be a an engorged lump like this.
Yep.
But all the time, like I have to force my throat.
And
there's
women, if you've noticed your throat getting thicker, like you're turning into you look like you're turning into a football player a little bit, like you're working out and you're not working out your neck like that to get swollen. Like, pay attention to this. It's not just about getting old, okay? You're not supposed to look like that, okay? Not even, there's plenty of women that live their whole lives and never experience their neck getting wider and wider every year, and nor should you.
And it doesn't mean you have cancer either.
No.
Let me say that.
But it does mean that you have something going on.
But I will say this, just to eliminate fear, because I can already sense some of you watching are starting to have this, like, you're going like this, I know you are. And it's okay, don't freak out, and don't create an issue that's not there. My nodules are gone. I was able to get rid of them through dietary changes and conscious effort. So I don't want you to think, oh my gosh, this is happening to me, I'm going to have cancer, I'm going to die. Please don't think that. This is your body's way of saying, hey, look at me, I got something going on right here. Give me some attention, please.
Listen.
So don't freak out, but Ken and I, our whole purpose of these talks is to really educate you and let you remove that fear. It's okay to talk about your body, and it's okay to ask your doctor questions about it, and it's okay to learn. That's why we're here. That's
what it is, and you've got to learn with your own body. That's the best instrument. We were talking about that before we got on the talk today, was you are the best instrument to learn from, because your infinite wisdom is here. Like, you know all this stuff. Getting the information and how it applies to you and testing and measuring things, you can absolutely do this, and you can do it safely by always going slow and reading and studying a little bit at a time. Just take your time with it, right? Thyroid conditions don't correct overnight, okay? They take some time, because you're not just working on this, because this doesn't operate in isolation.
What does it do? So let's talk about that. What does your thyroid actually do?
Thyroid is giving your cells energy. Number one thing for you to just kind of lock into. That thyroid hormone plays a large part in how your metabolism works. So if you are a lady, for example, who is starting to experience really unnecessary weight gain, because, like, I'm eating right, I'm hitting the gym, how am I gaining weight out of control? Like, I'm picking up 5 pounds here, 10 pounds there, and I'm not doing anything kind of like wrong to my body. I'm doing the right things to my body. This is an indication that you could be going through a hypothyroid right now. And that's the main condition most people have, is hypothyroid versus hyperthyroid. Now, when you're younger, more women tend to be hyperthyroid, okay? And there are some leading indicators as to why, because a lot of women also use birth control, which is a form of hormone therapy, right?
Now, that's a different topic that we will definitely address one month, because that's a hot topic right now for a lot of my patients too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what specifically is the thyroid hormone called? Like, what is the actual medical name?
Well, we call it T3, T4, but most people just say it's a thyroid hormone. Now, the why T3, T4 is because the thyroid will produce the first form of thyroid hormone in one format, and it has to convert to the other to be usable at the cellular level. So that requires some other parts of your body to be in good working order to create that conversion.
This is your throat chakra, guys. So I know you've heard Ken and I talk about how there's a correlation between your organs and chakras, and there's a correlation between the brains in your body. And a great example, I think we said this last month, is that, you don't ever think about breathing.
What you're doing is,
you don't think about releasing hormones. You don't think about digesting food. Like, none of those thoughts actually take place. Your body knows exactly how to do each and every one of these things. Ken just told you your thyroid knows to produce an enzyme, and then your body converts it so it can be used without you even thinking about it.
It has to happen.
So this science has been around for a very long time. We used to call it one thing, and now we're calling it another, but it's always been there. So knowing how your body works is huge.
Absolutely. And knowing that if you have a hypothyroid issue, like she alluded to some of the issues, right? You're tired, probably depressed.
Losing hair.
Hair's falling out because it's probably coinciding with
Skin
some B12 issue. You might have some weird eczema stuff going on. But the thing is, all of these things exist on a sliding scale. So that's what makes getting a functional approach to understanding what's going on with you is so critical, because just because you're experiencing some weight gain, right? You might experience that in one portion. You might be experiencing a little bit, like maybe you gain 5 pounds and you can't explain the 5 pounds, okay? But you're depressed as all get out on a massive scale, right? You're like, I don't know I just lately, or this last year, last 6 months, I'm just really in the dumps. I can't pull myself out, kind of stuff is going on. And you're also experiencing a little bit of this fat stuff. You're like, I don't know why I'm getting bigger. That's why investigating a full picture is really important. And you're not going to fix your thyroid just by worrying about the hormone.
But how many of us don't connect depression to health?
Oh, because we think
because we think
it's
they're
all here.
separate.
Yeah.
They're not separate. The journey that I've gone on in the past 18 months with my own health, discovering my liver enzymes being off, my adrenals being off, dealing with candida, and you guys see me once a month, I seemingly look healthy. And you know what? I am healthy. All those things, they're just processes in my body that I'm trying to improve. I'm not dying, nothing like that's happening, but I think people get scared. Oh, you have candida, oh, I have a candida overgrowth, and their world is ending, or oh my gosh, she had thyroid nodules, her world must be ending. It's not that. No. It's just like when you have a car. You get a tune-up on your car, don't you? Or you change the air filter in your home, correct? Or you put gas in your car, right? So you change the tires, you rotate them. It's no different than that, but we're doing it for our bodies.
For sure.
And just like you got tires, I got a thyroid. It's think of it like that. So when you hear a doctor tell you you've got this or that, or you talk to a coach like Ken, or you work with someone like myself, and we tell you these things, we're not telling you to scare you. We're telling you, saying, hey, this is the next area of improvement to help your body get better and help your body heal. And thyroid plays a pretty big role. Everything plays a big role.
It really does. I ask these trick questions all the time on my page about like what's more important. Like this morning I said, what's most important in your health journey? Is it persistence, commitment, or patience, right? And to be quite frank, it's all of them. They're all important.
But they vary for you.
Yeah, you're going to find out you have a strength in one versus another. So your challenge is going to be, how do I lift this other part of me to get that balance and to get where you really want to go? And it's no difference with anything that's trying to be fixed in the body. So if your thyroid is off, there can be multiple things off. I've actually never seen a thyroid issue without some sort of degradation in an adrenal gland as well. Also, a contributing factor is going to be your gut and how well you're digesting food, because of that conversion that we were talking about earlier.
We use this reference a lot. A baby only has so many ways to tell you it's broke. Your body only has so many ways to tell you it's broke. And you being in a bad mood is usually the very first clue that something's off. So for all of us out there that try to treat, our emotions separate than our physicality, we have to wake up and say it's not. So all of those people out there that suffer from depression, I'm one of them from time to time. Anxiety, hello. If you don't raise your hand, you're a liar.
If
you
do
raise your hand, congratulations. The sooner you recognize that you're depressed, the sooner you recognize that anxiety, the sooner that you can create a relationship with your body and figure out if there's something physically that can help balance you out. So please don't treat the mind separate from the body.
It's a big problem. Actually, in my group, I put up a post that I had read. This article was a beautiful article that was talking about just psychiatric issues in general and not paying attention to nutritional opportunity, because it's a big deal. If you don't have the right stuff in your body, things aren't going to work right. You're not going to be you're not going to feel happy.
Yeah.
You're not going to be balanced. You're not going to be able to focus, because you need the nutrients. That's a huge part of nutrient deficiency. Not saying there couldn't be something else off, but if we're not getting the base foundation of things that we need in our body for it to work properly, doesn't that kind of make sense?
Inflammation and depression are your body's way of crying. Just like a baby. So I'm pretty sure it was Michael Phelps that did a whole interview talking about, here I am, an Olympic athlete, was a 5-time winner, and he's in perfect physical health, depressed as
It's
all
all
get
get
out.
Yep, smoking
And
too much weed.
so they started giving him this and that, and no,
Just kidding.
that actually helped him. And he's a big advocate for that helping. But what he discovered is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he had an adrenal issue.
Yeah.
Because he was exhausting himself so
Pushing
much
so hard.
physically, he was depleting his adrenal capacity so much, his body's end result was massive depression.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and this is an athlete. This is an Olympic athlete. So,
and this is how
guys, we're no different. We have the same biological bodies.
You are probably also an Olympic athlete in a sense as well, because it came down to a type of stressor on his body. Period. Right.
That's true.
And so when I'm working with business owners a lot, business owners are very different, and we're getting more and more business owners, people that are picking up side businesses and side hustles. Guess what? You're also picking up that additional load, stress, burden, fear, right? I've been a small business owner for a very long time. This is an art, and this is a sport, okay? And most of us are not treating ourselves in a capacity to be a top performing business owner, because this right here isn't top performing. You have not accounted for how much more output and how much more physical and mental stress you've put on yourself, and you're still doing the same old things that you were doing before this.
Because you don't get to clock out.
And you're wondering why can't I take my business to the next level? What's holding me back? I bought the courses, right? I've got the tools.
I've got the customers. I got the building.
But somehow things aren't getting where they need to go. Guess what? It's probably right here. It's probably right here within you, that you can't get everything in sync because you're depleted, and until you recharge and reinvigorate this body and get it back into balance, you're not going to be able to get to that next level. You're going to be stuck. And it's simply because unless you find someone that can do it for you, you're not going to have enough energy. You're not going to have enough focus potential. And that shifts your mind and how you're able to do things. This is very apparent. I see it happen all the time with my clients. They show up, they can barely fill out the intake form. They're like, hey, could you help me do this? Could you help me do the intake form?
This is why it's important. So your thyroid produces energy, and that energy sustains you. So
every cell in your body.
When we start seeing people that have adrenal issues or thyroid issues, rather, what are you seeing? I know what I experienced, but what are you seeing in some of the clients that you work with?
Well, first one is they are not compensating for happiness. They're not giving themselves opportunity for happiness. They're just grinding.
Or celebrating it.
They're not celebrating nothing.
I got yelled at by him for that, by the way.
Their happiness is on low because they're not taking time to go experience any, and to see the small things, and to have gratitude for where they actually are. This is kind of a top 5.
And it does correlate, because when you think differently, you produce different hormones from your pituitary gland, which then represent and manifest in how your thyroid reacts as well. So, interesting thought. I want you to all think about this. Take a second. When you go to your doctor's office, do they ask you, A, tell me what's wrong with you right now? What's going on? Or B, tell me all the good things happening for you
what's going good?
If you are listening and you are so willing to admit you're listening and put in the comments, I would love to hear that.
Sure.
Because from the people that I've pulled, most of the time people say their doctor says, what's wrong with you today? Or what's going on with you today? Mm-hmm. When you work with a functional coach, when you work with someone that is looking at you from a whole perspective, I'm not a master of anything, but I'm interested in helping you in any way I can and creating that connection. I'm going to ask you, what's going good?
Yep. What's up?
Because you're going to be more apt. And you know, it's funny, I've noticed this, and I know you noticed it too, because Ken's actually the one that is like, every time I get on the phone with him, tell me what's good today. I want to hear about all that shit. Everyone's got shit. Tell me what's good. Because we don't acknowledge it.
That's right.
We don't celebrate the good things. We're so quick to do this. But if you can get someone talking about what's good, you can start eliminating all of those other symptoms of what could be bad, because you can make anything look bad.
Yes.
It could be like, oh, I got a flower today.
But
oh, I got a flower today. I mean, you can paint.
I got a flower today, but it wasn't my favorite color. We can find a way to poo-poo on anything, and we don't spend enough time. And it's interesting when I do ask this question, how much it has to make people think. We've all been programmed so much to think on the negative side of things, because that's how we market. That's how things are marketed to us 9 times out of 10.
Pain.
Here's the pain.
Fear.
Here's the problem. You're scared, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, you're jumping. You're reacting, hitting the button. I'm buying, right, to solve my problem. That's been going on for eons. So, I'm 48. I've been dealing with this since I was a kid. So have you, right? So that's a program that we have to learn to ignore and to reprogram. We need to go with the positive first. What is good about today? What's good about this moment? Because then you start to realize there's not a whole lot of bad really going on.
No.
And you need to let go of that. Let go of it, because it's jerking you around. It's tearing you down. So that's, happiness and having that sense of well-being so happiness. And then number 2 is being out of fear, right? How do you remove yourself from fear and stop letting fear run and dictate your autonomic nervous system?
It affects you.
It's costing you.
Every morning, ask yourself what's good. But thyroid issues. The reason I had Ken tell us what to look for in a blood test is because most of us don't know to look for T anything. We literally are looking for the word thyroid if you don't know how to read a blood test. So look for those T points. But if you're feeling fatigued, if your hair is falling out, these are symptoms. They're symptoms for a lot of things, okay?
For sure.
Just like I said, your
and
body
many
has
of them
something
the
to cry.
same.
But if these are things you want to mention to your doctor, take a log of. So for me, I found out with my thyroid, there's actually a practitioner here in North Carolina that's up in Asheville that specializes in thyroid medicine. He actually put out a book, Why Your Thyroid Needs Iodine.
Oh, yeah.
So I read the book because I was fascinated by, what does this mean? And his findings were incredible. I actually reached out to him and I did something called a iodine loading test, which Ken will explain in just a minute. But what the test informed me of, the end result was I learned I was no longer storing iodine at a healthy level.
Right.
And iodine is kind of like the food for your thyroid. It needs it. It
needs it more than anything else in your body.
It's the one organ that thrives on iodine. We don't eat a lot of fish. Well, in North Carolina, there's more fish eating because we're closer to the water, but I come from Chicago, so there wasn't a lot of fish eating. And it's one of the reasons there's such thyroid illness in the States, especially on the inner sanctum of the States, because we don't have access to seafood and we don't eat it like you would in Asian cultures.
Right.
So I started taking an iodine supplement, and over the span of 6 months, my nodules disappeared. Those nodules were my thyroid's way of protecting itself from not having what it needed on a nutrient level. But the important piece of this is, one, the nodules went away. I used a supplement to do it. I got the help of a functional practitioner that understood what I was going through. But because my thyroid wasn't functioning, I was very low in vitamin D. I actually had a endocrinologist tell me I was fatally low on D. I'm here to tell you there is no such thing as being fatally low. I was petrified for years. She had me so scared. I don't blame her. This is what she was taught. I'm here to tell you, you cannot be fatally low on D. But my body wasn't storing D either. These are not separate issues, but they were being treated separately by my doctors. They're actually the same issue. And because I had problems with iodine, and because I had problems with D, guess what else was affected? Calcium. So my bone density was that of an 80-year-old woman because my body was not connecting all this.
You had multiple nutrient imbalances.
It's a layer. So am I broken now? No, but that's why we're here, is to show you that it's just like if one of your car tires is too low and the other 3 aren't, you're going to pull.
Remember, health means balance. That's what it means. And that's all that the body is ever trying to do, is to provide balance for you to operate optimally based on whatever idiocy you're doing to it. Is trying to course correct and keep you in balance for as long as you can. It will rob Peter to pay Paul, but at some point the load is going to shift because the body has to reprioritize things. If you're not going to take care of it, it's going to, so it wants to protect this out of all things, right? But ultimately, let's talk a little bit about that iodine debacle.
Yeah, let's talk about
Let's talk about how people
we know what
really
it does,
get,
right? It gives you energy. What else does it do?
Well, let's wait a minute, because iodine is just I don't want you to get lost on the nutrient. Okay? That's what I not want you to take away from this. This is just one piece of the puzzle. So just consider iodine like it's a vitamin. And it's one that you're not getting enough of because you don't eat enough of it, quite frankly.
That's why they started putting iodine in salt, actually.
But it doesn't work.
Then we all moved to sea salt.
No.
And it didn't work anyway. The iodized salt wasn't delivered.
The problem with the salt is it's not the right form, and it's not going to deliver appropriately in the body. That is a synthetic manufactured form of iodine. It doesn't work. Okay? If it did, you wouldn't have thyroid issues because you just salt use that straight up old school white salt.
Salt the shit out of all your food and
you'd be straight. You'd be good to go. But if you are using, a real sea salt, you're going to have a better opportunity to get nice trace minerals amounts of iodine because it's there. It's in the sea. So you're going to get that. That's a great reason to move. Just completely get rid of old school table salt. Just push it off. Don't buy it no more. Spend a little more money on the good stuff and get some Celtic sea salt and start getting this into your diet regularly. You guys know I talk about trace minerals all the time. So that salt in itself is the cheapest form of trace minerals you can buy. So you just put a little bit of this in your water every day with some lemon, and you'll get some electrolytes, you'll get some trace minerals, you'll get your iodine.
Ooh, electrolytes.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that movie? But it has electrolytes. I know if my friend Jenny's watching, she made me watch the movie. I was laughing so hard I almost peed my pants because everything was solved by electrolytes. Oh, the plant is dying. Let's give it electrolytes. Oh, your dog has got one leg. He'll grow it back with electrolytes. It's just, sorry.
But that's cool. So what are some environmental factors that are affecting your thyroid? Okay? If you're drinking water in this country and you happen to drink it from your tap or even in the bottle, the water,
which is actually tap water now.
The water itself is a major contributor to thyroid issues, and not necessarily thyroid, but the whole process of thyroid hormone delivery.
The functionality of the thyroid.
If your cells, so here's where even endocrinologists and a lot of general practitioners, they take a left turn. They don't go down the full path of delivery, okay? Because I focus so much on the cell, I'm focused on the delivery of the nutrient and not just the manufacturing. Manufacturing is important, but what's even more important than that? Getting it in your cells so you can use it. So
that's I'm glad you touched base on that. Just because when you work with practitioners like Ken or you work with someone like myself and we are telling you what the supplements your body's low on, based on what your body's telling us and the reports that we use. Now, there's various tools. We just have specific tools. There's 8 different ways to get to Bojangles, guys. I'm just saying. So just because we say that, that doesn't mean run to the vitamin store and buy C, D, iodine, because Ken makes a really valuable point. Not all delivery systems work for everyone. So you have to realize, where is your body? I say that about CBD too. CBD works for all biological beings, but not every formula is going to work for what you're working with. And that's why we're here. We're here to help you figure that out so that you're not sitting in a store shelf pooping out bullets. If you've ever had an elderly person or you are an elderly person, you've taken those calcium pills, and then the nurses call them calcium bullets because they go in and they come out the exact same way. They look exactly the same. That's why we're telling you, you can take it all day long, but if your body's not absorbing it, it's not doing any good. It's like putting air in a tire with a hole on the other side. Makes no sense.
So you keep going back, and this is something I challenge women that are taking certain supplements that they get prescribed often. Iron, often. Calcium, often. D, often.
Oh, that's a big one. B2. B12.
So, and you've been on it for so long, how is this any different than being on a medication for so long? So listen, treatment is treatment, okay? You're treating something. But until you finally understand the why behind the problem, you're never going to get to the root issue of why this treatment isn't solving your issue.
And here's another thing. You know me, I like to put things in layman's terms. It's kind of like this. If you have dirt on your foot, the way to treat that is by putting your foot in a foot bath, right? So if I put my foot in a foot bath, I'm not going to leave it there for the next 30 years of my damn life. I'm going to wash the dirt off, and then I'm going to pull the foot out of the bath. So Ken and I are going to piss off a lot of doctors right now and a lot of nutritionists, but neither of us believe that you should be on a supplement for the rest of your life. It is a temporary deviation to get your body back on track. And
the only other supplements that you know that you'll need have to be natural sources. Like seriously, like that's where you need to end up. You need to end up with food And yes, you can argue that we don't have all the nutrients in food, so there may be some trace things that you're going to supplement. But they're nutrients, right? They're not just herbals, okay? Because herbals are medicine. Just not get it twisted. An herbal is a medicine. It's not something you would normally eat, right? You don't go out eating ashwagandha. You don't just run across that in your local spot,
or
right?
dandelion leaf, unless you're Italian. And
dandelions, that's food. That's food.
That's food and medicine. It's
right.
both. So, and I've had doctors challenge me on this, and yet I've been able to get patients off of high blood pressure meds.
For sure.
So it's possible. It just takes, it's that question that you ask your clients, what are you willing to do?
Yeah.
So when we go back to the thyroid, and I know Ken and I get on tangents, and hopefully that's why you love watching us, because your body is a tangent. You can't just talk about one thing. You gotta love it all. So when someone, I don't want everyone getting off this thing, oh my God, I have a thyroid issue. Write down the things you're dealing with and start evaluating.
Just evaluate, see what's going on. So, listen to some of the symptoms, some of the things we're talking about.
This is a sure, there is no denying that if you have a physical lump or a physical thickness where you have difficulty swallowing, that is definitely a level of concern, and you should definitely get that checked out.
For sure.
Yeah.
Definitely want to get that checked out. You definitely want to start. The thing about iodine as well is your body has to be ready to accept it, because if you're deficient, you've probably been deficient for a long time.
Are we going to tell them the cheap way of finding that out?
No, I don't want them to do that. We can do that. I want to explain this first. Okay?
Yeah.
So first, just look at the symptoms. See what you're feeling. Okay, based on what we're talking about. Next, just evaluate. Where are you getting iodine in your diet? You're probably not. And the problem with that
where does iodine come from? We got fish,
seaweeds, anything from the ocean typically, because we used to have a little in our soils, but not so much anymore.
Seaweed, but be careful, because a lot of this stuff is now farm raised, and we're not getting that iodine from the ocean anymore. So you want
gotta really
wild caught.
You got to really check out your supplement sources and dig deep to see if they are farming it. Is there any loss potential? Are they doing as natural as possible? What's their process once they farm it to bring it to market?
Right.
Is the processing of it killing it? Like taking out the validity of what you're looking for in that supplement in the first place. But one of the biggest problems that I see, that I think is plaguing at least America, because this is where I live, is the water is killing your thyroid.
Why do you say that?
And the reason is, water's got a lot of junk in it, number one. And so we put fluoride in our water. We put chloride, right? There's probably trace elements of bromide, which means, and these are in a family.
You guys can have your water tested at any Home Depot does it. Menards does it for those of you that are not in the South. Lowe's does it. So any Ace Hardware does it. True Value does it. You can bring a sample in, and sometimes it's free. Sometimes it's as little as $2.
You can find a kit online on Amazon.
Yeah,
too.
But these stores will do them for free.
That's cool.
What I'm recommending.
That's
They'll
awesome.
do it for free, and they'll check for all of these things. You can actually reach out to your municipality and ask them for a water report for the pipeline that's specific to your neighborhood as well. And we encourage you to do it. Don't do this out of fear. Do it to educate yourself, because if you know what's in your water, you'll know how to balance that out. So let's talk about some of that.
And quite frankly, if you're not filtering your water at home, find out how to do that. Get on that.
Even if it's a Brita.
Something. Start filtering your water, because tap water is not all that, man. It's not. You really need to get some of this gunk out. So some of that gunk that's affecting you, those elements that I spoke of earlier, they're in a family of elements on the periodic table called halides. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem with them. They look a lot like thyroid hormone. A whole lot.
This is important, guys.
So pay attention, because the body is infinite in wisdom. And so it robs Peter to pay Paul. Remember I told you about that earlier? So you may have heard on some of my talks about heavy metals, how the body will substitute heavy metals in the place of nutrients that you don't have available because you're not getting enough in.
Because it's close. It's like one enzyme off.
It's like, oh, this is so close.
It's kind of like Delta 8 and THC9.
It goes, I know.
One enzyme off.
There's one hydrogen off on this molecule, but it's good enough. It'll fit. Boom. Slaps it in, bastardizes that process. This weakens things over time, right? But the body's just trying to be efficient. It's going, hey, Mercury's here.
That's close enough.
Mercury's here. I'm going to use mercury, right? We know you don't want mercury in your body, but the body will leverage what's available. The problem with those halides is when they start circulating through your bloodstream, every cell, and you've seen the coronavirus, right, on everything, and it shows you all these receptor sites. That's what those things are on the cell. So every nutrient has a docking station to the cell. So it's like coming into port.
It's like an airport.
Yeah,
it's
so
got
it's
your
coming into
United
port.
Station,
This is your spot.
American, gotcha.
This is your brand. Well, these halides are like little thugs. They see your thyroid receptors, and they're like, I can take up residence there. And so they do. And because they take up residence there, when your actual thyroid hormone is trying to get in, they can't. This is one of the reasons why your thyroid may be performing just fine, but it's not getting in. The second reason,
interesting,
and she alluded to this earlier, was calcium imbalance. And so a lot of times,
hello ladies, this is
big for you women out there.
What I discovered through my journey, and this may not be the same for everyone, I'll make that very clear, is that for a lot of women that I worked with and spoke with, their calcium imbalance was directly related to their thyroid.
Big time.
There was a direct correlation, because I'm happy to tell you I do not have a bone density issue anymore.
That's good. So because of the way minerals work together, calcium, when a couple of other elements are not in play, such as magnesium, boron, manganese, when these things start getting out of play or out of a good relationship with each other, it allows for some things to happen with calcium that's not cool. It's like calcium starts to take over and it starts to rise very much in your body. And so this is what contributes to osteosporosis even more so than the lack of calcium, is too much calcium in respect to the proteins and the other nutrients in your bone.
Say that again. Too much calcium can actually contribute to osteoporosis. We've been told the otherwise. So
too much D.
These are those situations where too much of something, it's not fatal, but too much of it can cause an issue inside your body. And knowing that balance is really important.
Getting a snapshot, understanding where you are so you don't keep pushing something that doesn't need to be pushed. Or you need to put throttle on some other nutrients so that this can balance out, and then the issue goes away, right? So the issue that I'm bringing up is something called calcium shell, which we see a lot these days.
What does that mean?
Calcium shell is when your calcium is kind of gone way over where it needs to be for your body. Like the average points that we want to look at is 63. I've seen calcium in people as high as almost 500. And guess what all of them had? Every last one of them had a hypothyroid problem. Some of those had TPO antibody problems where they were actually attacking their thyroid.
Interesting.
Okay. Depressed, low energy, RA, right? They're also moving toward arthritis, right? Another autoimmune disease. This hypothyroidism is an autoimmune disease.
And men, you're not immune to this.
No, you
I'm
get
sorry,
this.
guys.
I got men that get this too.
Thyroid issues.
You have a thyroid.
Men and women.
Yeah, because it still comes back to hormones, and we all have them, right? We all have.
Why is it more prone for women? Or do we just catch it more in women because we don't have an Adam's apple to hide it? I mean,
No.
What is it?
I don't know what it is specifically. I just know it's just way more prevalent. I believe it's just mainly because of how you use hormones versus how men use hormones. Because there's nothing else really biochemically that you look at and go, why should women, based on lifestyle habits and other things, because the men are drinking the same water.
Well,
They're
I think
eating the same food.
and you make a good point with hormones, because women's hormones change
They're
when
always-
we begin to cycle.
Yes.
And then we begin to not cycle, our hormones shift again. And I've found through my research, that's the stage we start seeing a lot of the thyroid issues start to really become prevalent when the cycle starts to come to its end.
Well, not just there, but
men can get women pregnant until they die.
yes. Yes!
Seriously?
Go men! Go men!
You know what? I want to see you get pregnant. I want a man to bear a child.
Hey, wait. I had kidney stones 3 times. I heard that's like labor. That's enough.
Well, you know what?
I don't need any more than that.
You know how to soften that shit
And
now. I don't want to hear your excuse.
I'm so happy women have babies, because I wouldn't have any. We would not populate the planet if you had to depend on me as a man to make a baby. It would not happen. That stuff does not look fun. at all. But
It's
if you're thinking,
not.
but think about your water source. Get your water filtered so you can get these halides out. If you're behind the camera right now and you're still taking down plenty of processed carbohydrates, that's a major form for bromides. That's that other halide I was speaking about earlier. So if you like baked goods or you bake a lot, you use old school wheat flour.
Your mama's donuts.
Yeah.
I love your mama's.
So check it. Those bromides can clog up those receptor sites. This
So don't
can be
eat
a
that shit
contributing
every
factor.
day.
Yeah, you need to ease up.
Like, don't eat that shit every day.
And especially, and what I say for people that are really trying to course correct something, because wouldn't it be nice to have your energy back quicker? Sometimes just buckle
We should
it
do a
down.
whole episode on ATP.
Buckle down in mitochondria. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we should do that.
Because all of this affects your mitochondria. All of this affects ATP production. Okay.
So mitochondria is...
This is the little vessel inside your cells. This is the energy center.
It's not from Star Wars.
No, this is a real deal.
It's
In fact,
a real thing.
this is something that I don't think everyone has to concern themselves with, because if you do all the stuff that we're telling you to at the top, the cell's going to fix itself. Okay, so you don't have to become a scientist to go through this talk. I want you to get more practical, actionable things to do without having to become a nerd. We're nerds because we've been studying this stuff for a long
I
time.
kind of dig being a nerd.
And we dig it, but we know that's not everybody's thing. So
We're new age nerds, though.
So you want to avoid the blood sugar. You want to avoid the blood sugar spiking, because that absolutely drives insulin resistance, tears up your thyroid. Okay, and insulin resistance means you're eating too much sugar too frequently, and your body's not processing it as well as it should. There's too much left into the bloodstream, and this causes additional. What's insulin? It's a hormone.
It's like driving your car
hormone.
on full throttle all the time. Imagine getting on the highway and just putting the pedal literally to the metal and never easing up. At some point, you're going to put yourself in danger, and your car's not going to be able to withstand that anymore. So think of it that way. Sugar's like putting the throttle down. You got to give your body time to recover from that, so that you can actually enjoy it. We're not saying don't have a donut, because oh my God, if you've never had a good donut, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm really sorry. But we're saying don't eat that shit morning, noon, and night. Don't eat it 5 days a week. You have to give your body time.
And just don't get it twisted. It's not just a sweet donut.
It's bread.
It's
it's
all
pasta,
brown, white flour. All brown and white flour. So just keep that in your mind.
Especially today's flour.
Yeah, the flour's whack, man. It's no good. And we've been adding bromide to it for over 50 years.
If you have bread on your counter that hasn't molded or gotten hard in 4 days, ask yourself why. If you've ever had fresh baked bread, it gets hard inside of 24 hours, or it will mold inside of 48. There's a reason for that. So just if you want to choose these items, make sure you're choosing better choices, things that are made fresh. Go to the donut shop, get them fresh. Don't buy that shit on a box that Entenmann's made 3 weeks ago. Sorry, Entenmann's, I'm not trying to pick on you, but there's a difference in these foods.
For sure.
So we're not saying don't enjoy these foods. Please enjoy these foods, but just enjoy them responsibly. Eat that pasta, but go to the restaurant that made that shit fresh.
Yeah, best.
Have that bread, but go to Panera. They made it today. It's today. They made that. They didn't make it designed to be bagged and sit on a counter for.
I don't agree with her, so I'm not going to say go eat all this stuff.
I'm not saying do it all the time. I'm just saying
Most
I don't
of America,
want to deprive people.
You don't have to deprive yourself, but check it. If this has driven you to your situation, then you know you need to fix it, right?
Point, yeah.
You know you need to ease off and maybe abstain for a period of time. And I know the word abstain scares people. Okay?
It's temporary though.
But it's not forever.
Yeah,
it's to get out of danger and to get moving on. Right? Most people's health journeys drag on because you're not willing to go, let me buckle down. Just buckle down for a short period of time. It's going to be a little painful, but in about 2 weeks it'll smooth out. And then in 30, 45 days, I can start adding this back in and get some control. Because most people that are having issues with food you lack control. And you need to reestablish a control mechanism for yourself to allow yourself to feel good enough to continue the journey. Right? Because it's not a quick fix, but it goes, I got a good foothold on this problem. I've made a very strong move forward, and I'm not going to let it up, right? Now, I can start looking at the rest of my lifestyle factors and gently start allowing some of these things back into my life, but do it in a balanced way, in a controlled way where you're in charge and those substances are not in charge, right?
It's a great
That's how we want to roll.
And it's really important. So let's talk about some other foods that we can introduce in our diets today.
Yeah, so definitely, shellfish,
to help thyroid health.
If you're looking outside of animal proteins that we've discussed so far, you want to look into your seaweeds, bladderwrack, Irish moss, dulse, Atlantic sea dulse, sea salt, like we mentioned earlier. And if you're going to look at supplementing, there's two forms of iodine to supplement. So you've got like potassium iodide, nascent iodine.
I took iodoral.
Iodoral, yeah. So some people will get on that if it's severe, because it'll help course correct pretty quickly.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah, it's if you're pretty bad off if you need that.
I was taking he had me on 75 milligrams of iodoral a day, and then it went
I bet you
50.
felt great though.
Holy shit!
It's
it was like night and day.
I'm telling you, man. Sometimes
within
just
24 hours, it was night and day. Within 6 months, I was feeling great. Now my body regulates. I don't need to take iodoral anymore, but I'm also choosing different foods.
That's right,
and
to
eating
support
differently. But I still check my iodine every now and then. Well, and I want to do that. Let's talk about the iodine.
Tell them the loading test that you did.
Okay, so the iodine loading test, you have to do it with a practitioner. It's not something you can't buy it at Walgreens, guys. So, and if you see a kit on Amazon, please don't do that.
Get some help.
You want someone that can read those results for you. But an iodine loading test is I had to take my urine first thing in the morning. Then I had to take a bunch of iodine.
Yeah, push.
Like an excessive amount of iodine. And then I had to collect my urine for the day, and then all in the same container, and then pour a little bit and send it out. The goal of this was to see, he knows how much iodine I put in. At the end of the day, he wanted to see how much is left.
What are you leaking?
All of it. I leaked all of it.
You couldn't retain it.
I couldn't retain any. And that's when we discovered that I had to reassess my iodine. But that's what an iodine loading test is. It's peeing in a cup. Sorry, you wash your hands a lot that day, but it's really important because it was able to say how much is just literally flushing through my body.
Yeah. And another thing to be concerned about, like even when you do a test and they give you a recommendation, when I'm recommending iodine therapy, I'm doing it in a context of understanding like all of your nutrient levels in your body. And this is really important because the reason why you may find some conflicting information about iodine out there, being detrimental, is because it's been mismanaged. It wasn't the right form, it wasn't for the right person, it wasn't the right time, based on other elements of nutritional deficiencies or imbalances that were going on in the body. So you have to be careful, because just because something looks safe and it's on your shelf and it's a nutrient doesn't mean it's going to react to you awesome. Because you go, oh, this says take 5 drops. Well, maybe you need to start with 1 drop of a diluted solution, where you took 1 drop of iodine and put it in